Next to the stage, we're going to bring Mr. Lou Rosado. He wears multiple hats, but really he is the financial guy. His story is amazing about his journey. Listen as we bring to the stage Mr. Lou Rosado.
Thank you, blessings. I'm going to start with a very simple question. What or who do you value most in your life? You can throw answers, we don't have to raise hands, just throw anything. What do you value? Who do you value most in your life? Family?
Family.
Anything else?
God.
God, ooh, love it. Good? Now, follow-up question that I want you to think about. You don't have to answer me, you got to answer yourself. That answer that you gave me, does your calendar and your checkbook reflect that? Where do you spend your time? Where do you spend your money? How much impact do they have on that which you truly value most? That's the basic foundation for financial literacy. Now imagine knowing that way back when you got your first job. How different would your life be? Imagine instilling that in your babies, bringing them up. How different would their lives be with that little bit of financial literacy? Every parent wants the same thing, right? We all want better for our kids growing up. And over the years, my son's in his 20s now, I was able to experience a whole lot of that. None more profound than when we registered our son for college. I hadn't done that at that time. You couldn't tell me nothing. I was floating around that campus. We're going on tour. I don't know if my feet touched the ground. I was like, my son's going to college. Like, this is great. I couldn't, the accomplishment, the amount of pride I had in not just my son, but in my wife and myself, because at that time we hadn't either. And now our son is going to do it, right? That's what parenting is all about. So we go into the administrator's office and we're going through the registration process and we get to the financial aspect. She says, all right, Dad, how much money do you have in your checking account? I said, well, there's about $2,000 in there, technically speaking, because the mortgage hasn't cleared yet. So it's about $500. She says, okay. What about your savings? What do you have in savings? I said, well, there's about $3,000 in there, technically speaking, because I'm the commissioner for a fantasy football league. So that money's not mine. Unless the season goes well, then I get to keep it. But technically speaking, there's about $1,000 in there. She says, all right. What about investments? So now I don't have anything of that. She says, no 401k, 403b, TSP, IRA, 457. I don't even know what you're talking about right now. Stop it, please. No, I don't have any. I'm just going to say no. She said, what about a 529? 529 what? Dollars? Like, what is that? She said, it's a college fund. Wasn't aware. No, I don't have it. I went into that office with the most euphoric feeling ever. And I left dejected. I realized how financially illiterate I was. And what was embarrassing to me was it happened in front of my wife and my kids. Sent me into a bit of a tailspin. Right? That moment, as powerful as it was, changed the trajectory of my life, new career and everything. And as big as that moment is, it's not really where my story with regards to my career even begins. So that starts 40 years prior. And the bank foreclosed on our house. I was 5 years old, middle-class neighborhood, 4-bedroom house, mom, dad, newborn baby sis, couple of dogs. I remember swinging in the backyard. You know when you're on the swing and you go back and the front comes up a little bit? You know what I mean? One of those things, right? I remember I used to park a blue and yellow Huffy bike, and it was parked right next to it, and I would swing 10 times and then see how fast I could go 1 block and then come back, right? And I had this little digital Casio watch I would time myself, right? And this beautiful And all Americana as that was, a year later came crashing down. Mom and dad divorce. Dad leaves. Mom, 23, 24. No financial foundation to build on, was unable to sustain. Sheriff takes the house, puts the big old padlock on there. We end up essentially living in an abandoned house next door. No heat, no hot water, no electricity. These things became luxuries. We had a kerosene heater that we'd put in the middle of the living room, and we'd drag it down the hallway at night to keep the bedrooms warm, and back into the living room to keep the living room warm in the cold New Jersey winters. We used to cook on that very same kerosene heater. Spam and Campbell's soup and oodles of noodles, these things. Only chef I ever knew at that time was Boyardee. That's all I had in me, right? So that was home for about a year and a half to 2 years. And then my grandparents came into the picture, thank the good Lord. And there is where I learned the foundation of the life and the man that I am today. My grandfather, old school, he taught me how to work hard. My grandmother, rest her soul, taught me how to love just as hard. I instill that in every fiber of who I am today. That, thank God, was home for about 5 to 6 years. Mom then gets her life to a point where she's able to sustain, and we go back and we live with her. Now, from a financial perspective, we went from being poor when we were living in that house to being with grandmom and grandpop. By no means were we rich, but we didn't need for anything. There were no family vacations, but trust me, we were fine. We were fine. So now we go with mom, and although mom's not poor anymore, mom's broke, right? Doing the best she can with what she has. Living that life of robbing Peter to pay Paul. And if you know what I'm talking about, I'm going to date myself, but sending the gas check to the electric company, right? Oops, sorry, can you guys send that to the gas company for me? That would buy you about a week before it got to the gas company, and then the check actually hit the bank and the money was there. But considering where we once were, that was an improvement. Right? Still living in financial survival mode. It's really all I'd ever known. So that was home, 19, I leave, I go to the military. 4 years later, married, beautiful wife, beautiful baby boy. 4 years later, we bring our princess into the world. From a financial perspective, we were slightly better. My kids played every sport they wanted, right? There was football, baseball, basketball, cheer, all these things. I don't know, practice here, game there. We went nuts. But they were allowed to be kids, something my sister and we didn't have the opportunity to, right? So as far as I was concerned, my wife and I, we were doing this parenting thing. We're winning, right? Our kids are happy, right? We didn't have to worry about the electric being paid and the gas being paid, and the mortgage was fine. Just didn't have a lot left over is all. It's all right. We hit some hard times. We make it. We're fine. Even went to Disney, right? So if you go to Disney, man, you cannot complain, right? You're living a good life if you go to Disney. The happiest place on earth, right? So we made it. We were doing this thing. A dozen years or so later, now we're in the university enrolling my son. And that's when it hits me. I'm living a life of paycheck to paycheck, maybe better. And I'm raising my kids to do the same thing. Something had to give. Sent me into that tailspin, and I wasn't happy with me, and I didn't understand why. I actually started to feel a little bit guilty. I've got a beautiful, healthy wife in the studio audience. Love you. Beautiful, healthy wife. Decades marriage. Not one, but 2 beautiful, healthy babies. And I'm not happy? Like, who am I, right? So I start to do a deep dive, and I realize I don't have a connection with him, right? So I start there, and instant, it hit me. Clear as day. I had an abundance of blessings and was doing nothing with them. I'm going to say that again. I don't think y'all heard me. I had an abundance of blessings, brother, and was doing nothing with them.
Wow.
Not even a thank you. Not even a thank you. Right? So once I realized this, I said, it's me. It's me, right? So I thought back to the genesis of this whole tailspin, no pun intended, but it was that day in the office. That's what sparked it all. Okay, fine. I don't know anything about money. I am financially illiterate. I own that. How do I fix it? I reach out to financial advisors. The problem was I don't have a lot of discretionary income. I made a decent dollar in my career, but I spent the vast majority of it. So I couldn't get a decent conversation with a financial advisor. Go to a bank, tell them you want an IRA. Can you tell me what an IRA is? Like, why am I giving an IRA my money? I don't understand that concept. They'll tell you. Fine. I said, if the problem is I need to make money, I'll make money. I start looking for work elsewhere. Couldn't find it. Best I could come across was a lateral movement. High school education is the best I could do. Fine, I'll go to college. At 41, with the support of my wife, I go to college. It's been a long time since I added numbers and letters and things like that, but I found my groove. 2 years. In 2 years, while working 50 to 60 hours a week and the support of my wife, yes, I'm going to continue to say that because there's no way this would have happened. 2 years, I get my associate's in general studies, bachelor's in business management, operations and logistics, state licensing required to become a financial advisor, wow, and almost bang out the federal part of it all.
Wow.
1 year later, the CEO of $1 million firm 1,600 miles away from my house in New Jersey says, if you can do that and maintain your marriage, I need you here with me in Houston. I said, well, what does that look like? And we worked that out. And now I'm the vice president of administrative affairs for a financial planning firm in Houston. My day-to-day now consists of looking for people to love hard and to work hard for. To get them to have that calendar and that checkbook impact their values. To keep a parent from sitting in that same chair that I sat in, wearing those shoes that I wore, and feeling as dejected as I did. I want them to go in there educated. I want them to go in there informed. I want them to go in there prepared. Because if they are, I know their kids are. That's an impact that I probably won't be around to see. And that's a goal of mine. To change the trajectory of some young child that's not even born yet, that won't know what it's like to fry Spam on a kerosene heater because their parents are financially literate and understand how money works. My objective is not to make you rich. And I know that sounds funny coming from my career path, right? It's to make that impact that's larger than myself. It's to love as hard as my grandmother would want me to. It's to work as hard as my grandfather still does till this day, at 88 years old. Now, if you're waiting for the perfect time to call, you'll be waiting forever. Life is ever-changing. Life is fluid. There's no such thing as a perfect time to make a phone call. Life is extremely complicated. It does not need your help. Believe me, life will do just fine lifing on its own. I'll make it simple for you. You go to meetlou.com. Meetwithlou.com. I'm going to say it again, meetwithlou.com. You get on my calendar. We see where you are in life today. We see where you want to go. We carve a path. It's literally that simple. It's that simple. Don't overcomplicate. Time is the most precious of all commodities. My name is Lou Rosado Jr., and I am eternally thankful for the time you've given me today. Blessings.